The Philippine economy is in a darker place than most headlines admit, and the numbers back it up. The benchmark stock index has plunged to levels we haven't seen in more than 5 years, wiping out a decade's worth of returns and investor optimism. The peso is collapsing to record lows against the dollar, recently trading near 59 pesos to the dollar, a historic low that makes imports more expensive, squeezes consumers, and quietly erodes the value of peso-denominated savings. Foreign capital, which should be the oxygen of any growing economy, is drying up. Net foreign direct investment inflows plunged by about 40.5% in a single month, a staggering retreat that signals a serious loss of investor confidence and points to a longer structural problem. This isn't a single weak quarter. It's the result of a decade of policy drift and governance uncertainty that began around 2016 and never fully corrected. When political risk persists for this long, it changes how the world thinks about your country. Not as a place to park capital for growth, but as a place to avoid until clarity returns. Look at what's happening in the real economy. Manufacturing investments and export-oriented projects have been flowing to other ASEAN countries, Vietnam and Thailand in particular, where governments have aggressively courted factories, offered predictable incentives, and built infrastructure to support exporters. Vietnam's manufacturing ramp is well documented. It's the new magnet for supply chain relocations. The region's FDI landscape is shifting and the Philippines is losing out. Tourism, once thought to be a reliable growth lever, is underperforming relative to neighbors. Through the first 9 months of 2025, foreign visitor arrivals to the Philippines slipped, while regional competitors have been quicker to recover or to attract tourists through easier visas, better marketing, and faster infrastructure upgrades. That means the tourist dollars that should support hotels, restaurants, and small businesses are being captured elsewhere. The property market tells the same sad story. Office vacancy rates in Metro Manila have ballooned. Vacancy in key business districts is hovering around the high teens to low 20s% as POGO exits and post-pandemic resizing leave huge swathes of unleased space. That's not just a real estate problem, it's a symptom of a shrinking demand for domestic office labor, slower corporate expansions, and capital that's simply not coming in to lease or invest. POGO, once a major but controversial demand driver for commercial space, is effectively gone. Those occupants have left, and a portion of the demand that was counted on to keep rents and valuations high has evaporated. That vacuum contributes directly to the oversupply you see in the data. Look at the jobs picture. Automation and AI are not a future problem, they're a current one. International and local research warns that a large share of Philippine occupations are exposed to automation, and different sectors from banking to BPO services are already redesigning workflows and investing in intelligent automation. Those shifts will cost jobs if reskilling doesn't keep pace. The global back office advantage the Philippines once enjoyed is eroding. Currency weakness, capital flight, and low investment have a feedback loop. The weaker the currency and the lower the investment, the harder it is for companies to expand or import needed inputs. The harder that becomes, the less attractive the market looks to foreign firms. In short, structural underinvestment begets more structural underinvestment. There's also a human cost. A steady stream of skilled, honest, and ambitious Filipinos are choosing to work and live abroad. Health professionals, engineers, and skilled technical staff, the very people who could drive a turnaround, have long been in external demand and continue to leave in significant numbers. Migration data and sectoral studies show persistent outflows of skilled workers. This brain drain weakens long-term capacity for innovation and institutional rebuilding. Compare that to major investment destinations in East Asia. Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and mainland China remain stronger magnets for regional capital, and the US continues to dominate global tech investment. The result is clear in the performance divergence. U.S. indexes near all-time highs and tech giants powering huge market gains, while our main index languishes and lags most peers. money chases growth, and growth in 2025 is where tech, AI, and resilient manufacturing ecosystems are. Let's be blunt about the consequences. If this runs on unchanged for years, you get a slower economy, fewer quality jobs, weaker public revenues, and an erosion of institutional capacity. Wages stagnate in real terms because the currency loses purchasing power. Younger generations face reduced prospects for local high-value employment. Older savers watch their life savings weaken in dollar terms. This is not a motivational speech. It's a warning backed by current data. The Philippines still has strengths: remittances, strong domestic consumption pockets, and an entrepreneurial population. But strengths alone won't close the gap if capital and talent consistently go elsewhere. What can people do individually? Pray and migrate to another country. Diversify skill sets, learn globally relevant competencies, build savings with a view to inflation and currency risk, and consider diversified investment allocations, including international exposure to protect purchasing power. At the policy level, however, nothing short of credible, sustained reform, improved governance, and targeted investment in infrastructure and human capital will change the trajectory. Final note, this is a bleak portrait, and the data supports that bleakness today. If the country wants a different story, it needs systemic change and faster execution than we've seen for much of the last decade. Until then, the economic horizon looks rough for workers, savers, and investors alike. Let's be candid. These problems won't be solved this generation or the next. For many, migration becomes a rational path to stability, safety, and upward mobility. Quality of life elsewhere can mean predictable services, reliable institutions, and stronger currencies. Portable skills, healthcare, engineering, digital translate faster abroad than domestic reforms materialize. If the policy horizon is slow, families cannot pause life milestones indefinitely. Responsible migration means legal pathways, credential recognition, and an emergency fund. Stay anchored, support networks, mental health, and clear plans for family back home. Until credible change arrives, migration may be the surest route to dignity and stability for many.